The Memphis Grizzlies are having an excellent season. They've been better than most people expected. Can't stop winning games. Everything is going well, except for the fact that Ja Morant doesn't really look like himself.
And now we're getting reports that the Memphis Grizzlies might consider trading Ja this offseason.
So the question is Ja Morant the next superstar to be shipped out of town? You know, now that Luka Doncic is a member of the Los Angeles Lakers after the most inexplicable, surprising trade of all time, it kind of feels like anybody's on the table, right? I feel like that's everybody's been saying. If Luka can get traded, anybody can. And, you know, we've been talking a lot about who the next player to be traded will be. Mm-hmm. We have a new report from Mr. Howard Beck, a reputable reporter, came out here and said, NBA executives believe that the Grizzlies could potentially look to move Ja Morant this summer. It appears we have our answer. The next superstar who's in rumors, Ja Morant. He's been shipped out the door, right? Write the headlines. Make the clickbait videos. He's gone. Where are we trading him?
I don't know. That's how I felt too. Yeah, similar levels of excitement, you and me. I was let's fire it up, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it turns out we don't actually believe he's going to be traded. You click this video. You saw the intro. You think this is a video about him being traded. It's not. What we're going to do today is,
but you have to stay.
You.
If
you're in the door.
If you're here,
watch for the next hour.
You have no honor. Come on, man. We got you. Just hang out for a little bit. Come on, dude.
No, neither one of us believe that Ja Morant is going to be traded, actually, right? But I do think this is interesting enough that we're here talking about it because I think the Memphis Grizzlies are a very interesting team because, like I said in the intro, they're having a great season. They're the second seed. They are 36 and 18 on the season. Mm-hmm. Just straight up an extremely good team. And Ja Morant has not had a good season for his standards.
No.
So while I don't necessarily believe they're realistically shopping him, it's worth talking about because they've clearly found a way to have success despite not fully prioritizing him. And I think it's a good reason to talk about this team, their dynamic, and whether we think it's a good thing or a bad thing that they're kind of winning despite Ja. And if we think there's, a realistic world where maybe something's changed and maybe some scenario occurs where maybe you would consider trading him. I don't know.
Yeah. It would shock me a lot less if Ja. I don't think it'll happen, but like Luka getting traded and Ja getting traded would be like two separate stratospheres of events for me. Where like Luka, we just have like this long established pattern of like, hey, if he's on your team, probably winning 50 games, probably winning multiple playoff series. You have one of like the 3-4 best players on the planet and you're set up for like the next decade of basketball. Whereas Ja, it's definitely not nothing. It's not like you're putting all your eggs into like a Zion Williamson basket or something. We have, all-star, all-NBA level seasons out of him. We have a pretty long pattern of like rising in the playoffs and everything, but it definitely feels like, less of a lock for team success. I'm pretty small guard averse when I think about teams, and he's a small guard, and there's just like a lot more specific things you need to do around Ja Morant to build like a really successful team, which to be fair, they 100%. Did, but yeah,
I don't think either of us can come up here and say they need to trade Ja Morant. He's next up, but there's a reason this report is happening. Like we said, there's real issues with Ja Morant's fit on this team, real issues with how he's played this year that need to be figured out. So I think to understand that and kind of explain where the Memphis Grizzlies are at this moment, let's start off by talking about why they're so good this year.
Yes.
Because they are an extremely, extremely different team than they were last season. Like I said, 36 and 18 on the season, second seed, 5th in offensive rating, 7th in defensive rating. As always, they're an elite offensive rebounding team, 2nd in the league. And as always, they're an elite transition team. 1st in transition offense, 7th in turnovers forced. On the surface, that sounds like what they've always been, right? That's kind of the identity of the Grizzlies for the past whole entirety of Ja Morant's career.
Yeah. It's crazy. The offensive rebounding thing is honestly pretty surprising, just given the departure of Steven Adams and everything.
Yeah.
And just like, I don't know. I guess all of this is building to the fact that although it sounds like the Grizzlies of the past, they're playing stylistically, not just a different kind of basketball from the stuff that they've been used to doing, but really from like a lot of the NBA. They're playing like a very unique, quirky style
100%.
On the offensive end of the floor that prioritizes maximizing good players, but it doesn't necessarily make Ja Morant's life easier individually.
I'm glad you used the word quirky. That is the perfect way to describe this offense. this is a cute ass offense. This offense is just full of the cutest shit you've ever seen, the most quirked up X's and O's, nerd shit ever that people like us love. This offense is euphoria for somebody who wants to watch unique basketball and understand like the depth of what coaching does. That's this team. They are currently 30th in pick and roll frequency in the NBA. And to get there, they have 12% of their plays coming from pick and roll. Number 29 in the league is at 17%. So it's a pretty fucking big gap between last and second to last.
Yeah.
They straight up, if they can go a whole game without running a pick and roll, they will do it. And they will like it. They don't want to see a screen. They don't want to smell a screen. They don't even want to think about a screen.
They're also they're dead last in screen assists and points off screen assists as well.
Makes sense.
Just like the NBA, I wish they would do a better job of tracking straight up just how many screens every team runs. It feels like something you could find somewhere, but it's not as like apparent when you start looking around. But the Grizzlies, they just don't run ball screens very much. They play a style of basketball where it more begins in like isolation kind of. And the other four players on the floor are much better at like moving into the open spaces that are left in the half court when a player dribbles somewhere and getting themselves open, as opposed to the more traditional, even like not just pick and roll, but like screens away from the ball also. It's not like Memphis is spamming those either.
Yeah, they are first in spot up frequency. So, spot up, standing there, catching the ball, shooting. But spot up also includes attacking closeouts, which is their bread and butter. They obviously run in transition a lot, but what they like to do is somebody starts in isolation, like you said, and they drive without a screen. And then the whole idea is you start a chain reaction with the drive and get the ball moving. Everybody else rotates around that and really fills spaces, kind of like a college offense or kind of like a defense where they focus on assignments space-wise. And it makes it so everybody on the team 1 through 5 has to be able to ball handle and attack closeouts. There's a play just now where Jaren Jackson had the ball and he just threw it to Gigi Jackson, who attacked closeout and got an open dunk.
Oh my God.
That's their bread and butter, where every single person needs to be ready to catch and go. And that has given them a higher floor offensively, I think. In the past 6 years, they've always been near the bottom of the league in half-court offense. And that's obviously not good. You don't want to be one of the worst half-court teams.
Actually, you want to be good at that kind of stuff.
You'd like to be good at most stuff.
yeah. I've heard the playoffs, the game slows down. I thought I heard someone say that. So it'd be cool in the half court to be able to cook a little bit.
Yeah, it would be nice that when things slow down, if you're still a good basketball team, that would be ideal. Unlike the last time we saw in the playoffs with Ja Morant a couple years ago against the Lakers, Anthony Davis was able to completely nuke their half-court offense.
His hand bent backwards. It's not canon. It's fake. Come on.
So because of that, they brought in 6 new offensive assistant coaches. I didn't even say offensive. 6 new assistant coaches this summer. Most of them dedicated to helping fix this half-court offense. And that's where we get this new offense from, that they went from being a regular volume of ball screens to being like this beautiful game, San Antonio Spurs style, where everybody ball handles. Like you mentioned in the beginning, someone like Santi Aldama benefits because suddenly he gets more usage and can do things in this driving offense. Someone like Jake LaRavia benefits. But more importantly than everybody, Jaren Jackson Jr. benefits a lot. A lot.
Yeah, really a career year from him. Incredible season from Jaren Jackson Jr. We're reaping the benefits of last year, where everything completely fell apart. Nobody could stay healthy, and they were just kind of like, hey, we're not doing anything anyways. You know how you can't dribble the ball, and it would be really sick if you could dribble the ball? Why don't you just practice that all year? And now we get into these fucking scenarios in this season, and Jaren Jackson Jr. is one of the best isolation scoring centers in basketball. It feels like he's just got a really good touch anytime he gets in the paint or around the rim, and he's much more confident initiating the offense, which this Grizzlies team wouldn't be able to survive without, really, given how Bane has been super up and down this season, and Ja, I mean, we're making a video talking about his inconsistencies. So shout out to Jaren Jackson, man.
Jaren, like you said, Jaren Jackson's ball handling and his ability to create for himself took a seismic leap dealing with all that. He's now kind of at that point where a lot of big wing / power forward scorers are, where he has the ball handling and speed with the ball in his hands that he's too big for small forwards and too fast for centers. So he's really hard to stay in front of in this driving offense that the Grizzlies run now. Again, you put a center on him. Let's say they're playing the Rockets. Well, I don't know. Actually, they played the Rockets a lot lately and it didn't go that well for them. So let's say they're playing the Yeah, I keep thinking of teams that actually do have an answer for Jaren.
These guys kind of suck. When do they beat teams? You know, this is kind of
Let's say they're playing the Hornets, and they put Mark Williams on him. He can attack off the dribble. He's way too fast. He'll get to the rim consistently and create. You put Miles Bridges on him. He's going to finish over him and get through him and around him. That's really been Jaren's game this year. He's been killing people from the short mid-range, having that touch you mentioned.
Yeah.
Perfect skill set match for this offense, right? Where you need people who can catch the ball and attack. That's what Jaren does better than anybody right now. 23 points per game with only 29 minutes. If you look at per 36, he's closer to 27 points per game on 60% true shooting. He's been a legit like top 20 player in the league this year.
Yeah, no, he's been incredible. He's been insane. I got into a fight online with someone the other day because like it was a Knicks fan and they were like, "Well, Cat's been really good on a high seed," and then they ranked a bunch of centers and Jaren Jackson was like 6 spots below that guy, and I was just like, Jaren Jackson individually, I mean, incredible season from a floor raising perspective, just something that like. Not even 2 years ago, heading into this year, I did not think he was capable of this. And your point about him, I really do feel like it's a leap of attacking smaller guys and using physicality because he's always like fairly agile. And if like a big closed out on him too hard, he could do a little something with it. But now the confidence in his dribble to not have it poked away by smaller defenders, hit him with a little bump once he's deep in the paint, and then like a little touch baby hook shot over each shoulder. He's really impressed me. He's one of my favorite seasons this year.
Yeah. Only 56% of his shots this year come assisted. It was 70% last time Ja was healthy in 2023. So it's just a much bigger share of shots he's creating for himself in the ways you described. And there's been a lot of talk of like, is he their best player now? Is he better than Ja? I don't know. Neither here nor there. You can decide. But it's undoubtedly a team that is more catered to him. It feels like he's a better player because the X's and O's they run are designed to make him more assertive because the skill sets that he has fit better. Whereas Ja's kind of minimized in some ways that we'll get to in a little bit. So whether you attribute it to the player or to the system.
Actually doesn't need you to run screens for him, believe it or not. It's mostly the guard that likes the screens.
Yeah. And as a result of everything we mentioned, the Memphis Grizzlies are 13th this season in half-court offense after being 29th last year, 22nd before that, 22nd before that, 26th before that, and I can go 5 more seasons before I get a top 20 finish in half-court offense.
Damn.
So in some ways, this has been good, right? Like undoubtedly, they're a better offensive team than they were last year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like if you want to talk about just season to season stuff, coming off of last year where it was a complete disaster, and walking out of it with like a legitimate All NBA level All Star, to go along with the rest of this team, like an incredibly deep, talented team, and a big three of guys that on paper you're super duper comfortable with. Like before this up and down season from Ja Morant, if you had told me, hey, you're getting the leap from Jaren Jackson Jr. Like he is going to become like one of those guys. I would be insanely high on the Grizzlies because I was already incredibly high on what Ja Morant was doing before this. And so if everything like gets rolling at the same time, if we get everybody going, this should be like a really, really good team. Like outside of the Thunder out west, they would be in serious contention for like running away with the best team.
And it's interesting you say they would be, right? Because like right now you don't feel that confident because Ja Morant hasn't clicked the same time as Jaren. And I feel like people would think on the surface, if you're not paying close attention to how the Grizzlies are playing, that Jaren being better would straight up make Ja better, right? Like their skill sets have good synergy, a driving guard, and a spacing big. Like it makes sense they could both click. So that obviously isn't the case right now.
Yeah.
Let's transition a little bit and talk about why all these changes that have made the Grizzlies as a whole better, harder to guard, more dynamic in the half court, why that's kind of hurt Ja a little bit, and why that's brought us to the point where some GMs think maybe he's not necessary. Maybe they'll trade him. What do you think is the biggest issue with Ja this year?
So if we look at his All-Star season, what was that? 45% of Ja's points per game came from the pick and roll the last time he was an All-Star, and it was one of his most efficient sets as well. He's not a super duper efficient scorer, but the screens really helped. Specifically Steven Adams as a screener. I loved that pairing. It was incredible. And so moving away from that set, getting him into a lot more isolation, still electric passer, especially off a live dribble. He could still like tear teams apart with his passing, but oftentimes it can mean that you get a position or a possession from Ja that like begins in isolation, He sees an advantage, he attacks it, he pursues it, and then he just kind of follows it to its natural conclusion where somebody really contests well at the rim and it doesn't end up being a great look for the team. His game, it's not that he's like a ball hog or like super ball dominant. It's just that he's so good at like cooking one-on-one that sometimes he goes away from the weird like ball movement stuff that the Grizzlies have established. It's not super conducive to how he plays.
Yeah, you think about what you saw from him in those All-Star seasons, right? All the best versions of Ja and why we liked him so much despite the lack of efficiency, despite the lack of defense. He's amazing at using his athleticism functionally, getting downhill, generating a paint touch, creating for himself and creating for others. Right, he's like a downhill force that can consistently apply pressure at the rim. That even when he's not necessarily being efficient, he's sparking offense, right? By keeping the ball moving and using all that crazy velocity downhill. He did that via pick and roll. Steven Adams famously said a lot of those. What do you even call it when they roll and they roll into the helping center so he can't come and rotate?
I don't know. A bullshit screen, maybe. I don't know what to call it, but like Steven Adams is just laying people out in the fucking.
Yeah, it's like when an offensive lineman. It's like a moving screen, but they're allowed to do it.
But it's cool when Steven Adams does it. He's nice, so it's cool. Yeah. But like if Draymond does it, I'm gonna cry online about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna cry. That was Ja Morant's bread and butter. He is an extremely good pick and roll player, and this year his usage rate is down to 33% from 38 in 2023. 35% of his shots are assisted. Used to be 24. So a lot more creating off of what others give him. 27% of his plays are in pick and roll, down to 47%. That to me is a big story. Part of the reason he's having a up and down year is injuries. He hasn't played 5 games in a row since like November. He's been dealing with that stuff too.
Yeah. We should be a little bit more blunt about that. Like very in and out of the lineup, and some of it's play style, some of it's what the Grizzlies are doing, some of it is clearly definitely health.
Yeah. And then some of it's health, and then some of it is he just does not look nearly as comfortable in this system. And like we said, elevates role players because it gives everybody chances to create. But I think in some ways it diminishes an on-ball guard who is best as a pick and roll operator.
Yeah, and I mean it definitely does.
It definitely does, right? You look at usually the counting stats tell you a lot. He 20 points, 7.4 assists, down from 26 and 8.2 assists. Now part of that is minutes per game. Only 28 minutes per game opposed to 31. Nobody on this team plays above 30 minutes per game. So that's another big part of it. And we're listing all these things, right, that are different. To me, we're stacking up a lot of contextual things and we're just throwing you anecdotes about why Ja's worse. But the question is, why do they do all these changes? I kind of feel like the only way to explain it is they don't want to be reliant on Ja Morant anymore. And that's the explicit intent of this offensive change. Whether it's because he can't stay on the court, because he's not reliable, because maybe the juice isn't worth the squeeze, because when you were playing through Ja Morant, you were the 22nd half-court offense. Whatever reason it is, it sounds to me like they want an egalitarian offense that isn't reliant on Ja Morant play in, play out.
I don't really think that's like an insane take. I think part of it also when I started to think about that is like coming into this season knowing Steven Adams isn't on your roster and knowing that like having a traditional pick and roll big, it's like a stretch. Like maybe Edey becomes that, and he's been serviceable at it at times, but like given the fact that he's a rookie and Ja has been in and out of the lineup a lot, they haven't really been able to like spam it that much, and they haven't wanted to. They've wanted to play this way, and so coming into the season knowing all of that stuff, it makes sense to design an offense that like, hey, we don't want to like build pick and roll in here knowing that we're not like Jaren Jackson that's not what he's good at. Santi Aldama, that's not what he's good at. Brandon Clark, that's not what he's good at. And so there's just, it makes sense to move away from it stylistically, but I don't know, like in terms of like, hey, the juice isn't worth the squeeze with Ja Morant. I do feel like they still love Ja, like they still want to build around him and everything. It's just like for an 82 game season, finding success, you had to shake some stuff up. Yeah,
you kind of had to diversify the attack, right? Like as great as Ja is, as much as we respect the downhill ability to create and run offense through that, it wasn't creating you top tier offenses. So you can love it as much as you want, but clearly you need more to go along with that. And I think the logic in this move was Ja can utilize that skill set, utilize that speed, utilize that driving in this offense too. You know, he can attack closeouts the same way all these other guys do. They're still going to run some pick and roll. They're still going to do some stuff he likes. And whenever he's going into the same rhythm as everybody else, like you can imagine a world where they saw that and said, he'll translate, right? So we can maybe get the best of him and the best of Jaren and the best of Santi Aldama and the best of Jake LaRavia and so forth. It kind of just hasn't worked out that way. And I feel like it was a good thought, but I think the rhythm aspect has been a little bit underrated here.
Yeah. When I watch it, I don't know. Like some of the stuff that jumps out to me is like, they don't really close out on Ja. They still treat him like a star. And like, I don't know, the scouting report on stars, I guess you're just like a lot more concrete in the approach. And so you're like, yeah, I am fine if Ja takes that 3-pointer. And conversely, I feel like defenses where a lot of guys are kind of left in single coverage still when they wind up in the paint off this off-ball movement and stuff. Ja, like a lot of Ja's finishes in the paint are incredibly difficult. Like it's two guys and he is throwing up like it's not impossible. I've seen Ja make crazy shit before. He's one of the best point guards in the league. But it's like, yeah, I'm putting it on the glass and praying it goes in. Like his life at the rim has not been made super duper easy in the games that he's played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think everything you're describing, we're just seeing a cascading effect of he's getting less of his bread and butter, getting a little bit less comfortable, and I think it's affecting most parts of his game. And part of this, I'm going to show you some numbers about different parts of the ways he likes to attack. It's down across the board. Yeah. Part of it can be attributed to hasn't been fully healthy. Maybe it's just a slump and so forth. But it really feels to me like it's just a lack of rhythm all around from everything we described. Transition in 2025, 1.01 points per possession, 25th percentile. Used to be 1.14, 53rd percentile. Yeah. Pick and roll, 0.8, used to be 0.93. Isolation is actually up a little bit. Shout out there. Spot up is the same.
I know. Yeah, this has helped his isolation. That's what jumped out to me when I was looking at the numbers and everything. Is he used to be like 38, 39th percentile as an isolation scorer when he was an all-star last. But transition, that's great because the Grizzlies are one of the best transition teams in the league this season. And so,
and he personally hasn't been as effective despite the team still being that.
As a scorer, I guess I'm curious like how he play makes in transition because like that's where another place where I feel like his passing really pops.
Yeah, well, I think this actually accounts for that. This is all possessions, not just scoring.
Shit. Okay. Well,
I'm
not a nerd like that. So
maybe that's a fluke, right? Maybe that looks good. There's no reason to believe that he's a worse transition player. Maybe that's just small sample size. Oh, well, it's half a season, but maybe that's him being injured and not having a sample size of health. But like, maybe you can look past that, right? But the pick and roll efficiency is obviously worse for everything we described. And that's a big deal. He needs certain things to get going and get the most of Ja. And if you don't feel like this system can get the most of Ja, that's going to be a problem in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. It's just, and I don't know. It's funny that I'm like just so hesitant to have this conversation with Ja Morant because every other small point guard in the league, I'm like, obviously, they need stuff to have. They're 6'3", 170 pounds going up against these fucking ogres. Yeah, Trae Young needs some help. Darius Garland needs a fucking screen once in a while. And so yeah, I don't know. I just like Ja. We got so much electric basketball out of him. Just with like, I don't know, with like the stuff we saw, which Steven Adams is a really good screener and like a really reliable guy, but he's not like an all-star big or anything. And so him being, Ja being that dominant next to him, I was like, damn, he could probably do this next to a lot of guys. And while that, I mean, that hasn't been the case, also the stylistic change has not helped in any capacity. Yeah.
So we understand why the team is good. We understand why that's kind of held Ja back a little bit. I guess the question is now, what do we do with this information? This video started because Howard Beck reported that he's hearing from rival GMs that they think Ja Morant could become available this summer, right? He could be the next Luka. They're saying that's speculation, right? He's just saying that a rival GM is thinking this thing. Maybe it's because he's had conversations with somebody, or maybe it's just the same way me and you can think something, right?
Yeah.
That's not out of thin air. Everything we said sounds like Ja Morant isn't the best fit for what they want to do. So it stands to reason to me that if they have a flame out in the playoffs again, you can go from this year, you say, okay, let's take a little bit of our eggs out of that basket, right? We don't want to be fully reliant on Ja Morant. Let's build in the system that can give us a higher floor with or without him. That doesn't mean we hate him. That means we just want to prep for a world in which you don't have him. Fair, but you still want him. I can understand a world that I'm sure this GM imagines where if it fails again, maybe you say, okay, Well, maybe we just don't want this world at all. Maybe we just want to go find a different world from another star that can fit what we want to do and is a little bit less volatile.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like we said, again, like anything's possible post Luka trade. It would still be crazy. It would be insane to me. But yeah, if there's another flame out in the playoffs, I could definitely see. This feels like a team that should be tier 1 to me. And if they are frustrated, if they feel like the volatility in, inconsistency, health issues, whatever from Ja is something that's holding them back from being tier 1, and if they could replace him with a different all-NBA-ish level player that would give them better chances in that regard, that's like you would entertain those phone calls if you're the GM.
Yeah.
No matter how much you like Ja Morant, he wasn't untouchable before the Luka trade, and certainly now he's not like in these conversations of like you could never get him for any price.
Yeah, you got to think about it, right? You got to weigh all your options. Nobody's untouchable, like you said. And again, neither one of us are advocating for a Ja trade. They should not be thinking about trading him. You can just see a world where maybe eventually they do. And I say that because I'm fully okay with them writing it out and seeing what the playoffs hold, seeing what happens when Ja Morant is healthy. I think he can be better. I also think there's a cap to how good he can be in the system unless they really up the volume pick and rolls and really do a little bit more to make him comfortable, which I'm sure they'll do. And maybe they're counting on the fact that they can flip that switch the other way anytime they want in the playoffs, and they're building out the foundation now for the other stuff. Regardless, it worries me to go into the playoffs without that being a sure thing. If Ja doesn't turn it around post All-Star break and we still see this up and down version of him that's not the best we could possibly imagine from him, that kind of scares me for their playoff hopes. Like that sounds to me like that's setting them up to be a good team that doesn't translate to the playoffs and get bounced by one of the teams with a superstar,
Oh yeah, I mean I have the same take on them right now as far as like the postseason goes, where it's like it's sick to have depth and it's sick to find guys and find ways to win, and they're always just pulling contributions from different places. That's great. But those things rarely outweigh having the best player in a series, having, one of the two best players, two of the three best players in a series or whatever. And so looking at this from the perspective of a traditional 2 seed, not just being like, can they find any postseason success at all, which I'm sure they will, but can they make a conference finals run? Could they give the Oklahoma City Thunder a really competitive series in a conference finals matchup? It doesn't super duper feel like it right now. And we're coming off a game a few weeks ago where they got fucking stomped by the Thunder. And I left that one feeling like, hey, how do you feel confident if you're a Grizzlies fan going into this matchup? And I still don't really know the answer to that.
Yeah. And what the hard part is, we also don't have a clear answer. We're not up here saying, you got to run more pick and rolls, Taylor Jenkins. You got to go back to what you were doing before because they're better now. So the equation that they signed up for was maybe Ja will be a little bit less comfortable, but the team will be better. And the way the offense is going before with Ja wasn't good enough. So it's worth it to go towards the other way and hope he can be better, right? You're getting exactly what you wanted then. So everything is great. Like it's working to a T from what you expected with that equation. So if we don't necessarily think it's good enough, what do you do with that? You can't. What are we advocating for? It's kind of tough. We're kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, and it's especially difficult given that like the other option there, the run more pick and roll option, it does kind of necessitate playing Zach Edey more, playing this rookie with a very distinct, not super versatile kind of play. Like you need, like it would focus, he would be on the floor a lot more. And if the matchup is bad, then that's a guy that somebody could really go at. And so I don't really know. I don't have the answer. I mean, it's like you said, it's just I'm looking at what's going on with the Grizzlies and I'm like, this is funky. Like this is a situation that you don't really see all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and this maybe this sounds negative. Maybe Grizzlies fans are watching this like, you don't understand my team. We're the second seed for a reason. We're gonna kick ass in the playoffs.
Calm down.
I'm not. Maybe you're not. Maybe you are. It's probably matchup based. I'm not even saying you're fucked. I'm saying we're not getting great Ja Morant, and I think if you want to win a title, you need great Ja Morant.
You want to hear hate? Let's tune into the Rockets playoffs perspectives, baby.
That we're less hopeful about.
Yeah,
that we see as a castle of cards.
Yeah, man. Oh my god.
So again, it's really just framed through the lens of like, in this world that Howard Beck described in that report of them potentially trading Ja Morant, like, does it make sense that view is out there? And I think unequivocally, yes, it makes sense when you see everything they've done this year. Whether we get there is another question. Do you think, if you were the Grizzlies, would you consider trading Ja Morant?
I'd think about it. I mean, like, if I was a GM, I'd be a lot meaner than a lot of other people. Like, I'd think about everything, I feel like. And yeah, I don't know.
You make some calls?
I'd be hesitant to make calls just because of the way the second someone makes a call, Shams is on ESPN being like, they are thinking about it, guys. And then Ja's seeing that, and it's this whole fucking ordeal. But like internally.
Sounds like you're a Nico Harrison apologist.
Hey, settle down. He's
Sounds like you
crazy.
understand the madness.
No. But like, I do just think internally, I would think about it. I'd be like, would I rather have Ja or would I rather have, Jokic? Obviously, Jokic. Would I rather have Ja or Luka? Like
Bold.
there's players that are better than Ja, and so I would think about like, yeah, could I get one of those guys, or even if there's a guy as good or around the same level as Ja that I believe in the fit or the way we could build around them easier or better, then I would internally think about it, but I would hesitate to pick up the phone.
Yeah, I wouldn't be looking, but I'd be monitoring the trade market. And if you see the right player, I don't think it'd be crazy to
Julius Randle? Oh my God, let's pull the trigger.
All
guys.
right. With that being said, let's play a game as we tend to do. The first game of this episode, I'm going to name you 2 NBA point guards, Ja Morant versus somebody else. You tell me who you would rather build around.
All right, let's go.
Straight up. First off, Ja Morant or Trae Young?
This was the name that I was like, when you ask me that name, I'm going to be really torn.
Quintessential debate.
Yeah, I think I will go Ja Morant here just because there is a little bit more evidence. I'll go Ja Morant here because there's more evidence of him, like, not just rising in the playoffs, but being a really efficient scoring engine. Whereas with Trae Young, that's been something that's really limited him in the postseason. And so,
but I also feel like the playmaking floor of Trae is a lot higher. So I feel like this could go either way. I really don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's like this one is incredibly close. I would go Ja here. Let's call it the aura boost or whatever. But if someone wanted Trae, I'm a huge Trae guy. Like, I love both of those players.
This is like truly the most like coin flip NBA debate I can think about. I'm not mad at either answer, but we'll go Ja Morant. We'll keep it pushing.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrese Halliburton.
Oh, I'll go Ja.
This is flash versus like fundamental. Like, I think Tyrese has pretty safe floor what he's going to bring you to run your offense. Ja Morant, he might drop 45 and win you a game, while Tyrese Halliburton is taking step back threes off the backboard.
Yeah, I'll go Ja here because I like the consistent aggression from Ja Morant.
Yeah.
One of the most frustrating aspects of Halliburton's game. Like, not to go Dion Waiters or whoever it was, but let's go 0 for 30 to Tyrese Halliburton. Come on. The games where Halliburton goes like 2 for 5 and they get blown out, I'm like, empty the clip, guy. Like, you are the star. And so I don't really feel that way. I don't feel okay. I don't feel that way with Ja as much. I'll go Ja Morant here.
Yeah. There's just, it's a ceiling play, right? The game-changing aggression that can win you games isn't there with Halliburton.
Yeah.
And it's not like either of them are moving you defensively, so I'm fine with Ja.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that with Ja. He is a fucking disaster sometimes, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, neither here nor there. Next up,
let's keep
Darius Garland.
Oh, this one's tough.
I'm not going to lie. I kind of feel like this has been a chain-snatching year for the point guards in the 2019 draft.
It has been. It has been. Garland's back with a vengeance. I will still go... Oh, I'll still go Ja Morant. I'll play it safe. I'll still go Ja Morant.
Not me. Give me Darius Garland. I think that neither one of them should ideally be the number one superstar you build around.
Yeah.
Darius is a million times better fitting next to other stars. His off-ball game next to Donovan Mitchell is so good. I want to see him pair with every superstar in the league because Garland just makes people better.
Yeah, Darius Garland, it has been a chain-snatching year. He's been... truly the facilitator, partial engine of one of the best offenses in the history of basketball. So, yeah, shout out to the Cavs, shout out to Garland. I'm happy that he's had the year he has, for sure.
Yeah. It's just like a really nice thing for team building to have the best off-ball shooter, the best on-ball shooter, the best passer on your point guard position. Like, he'll fit with anybody.
Yeah, the flashes where Ja can shoot though. Oh my god, what a player!
Oh, listen. If he shoots 38% from three for the rest of the year, I would take it back immediately.
What a player!
I'll change
Oh
my tone
God.
instantly. I will be backtracking like Michael Jackson. It would be crazy.
Yeah, that is something. Just like the cycle of Ja that we've fallen out of because of the whole like injury, all the stuff last year. We used to get this thing where he would shoot pretty well in the playoffs, and then it would be like, yo, he's coming in on demon time next season, and then like another 33% year, and it'd be like, oh man, it didn't carry.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And that's the thing. Playoff holds a lot of weight in discourse. So listen, he could make this video null and void by just going berserk in the first round again.
Yeah, that's the Paolo effect, baby.
Oh my god. Next name, Cade Cunningham.
This is where I start. I love Cade Cunningham, and this is the small guard bias. Really, it's like I just feel so much more comfortable building my team around a guard.
That makes a lot of sense. You love big men. All your favorite players are tall.
I love big men.
You love largeness.
That's what I'm saying. Clip it. No. Yeah. So. Cade, I'm really comfortable with him on the defensive end as well. And that's like when I talk about like small guards, I'm a little wary of them, like building a team around them. It's because if you get into a playoff setting, you are building in like a really just like, hey, attack this guy on the defensive end. You're handing points to the other team at times, it feels like. And so Cade, maybe you're giving up some offensive stuff. Like maybe Ja is better. I definitely feel like Garland's been better offensively this season. But on the defensive end, like I really do love what Cade brings. So I'll go him.
Yeah. I think they're comparable levels of go-to scorers, comparable levels of efficiency. I kind of like... whose passing is better? They're both good passers. I think I like Cade Cunningham's passing more. Obviously, I like his size more. Going back to the other thing, I think he'd probably be better fitting next to other superstars. Yeah. Fucking hopefully we see it one day and we see him play with another star, but I think it'll go well.
Yeah. I like Ja's passing more. But like Cade's... It's a real like shout out to Cade's turnovers that like true. Ja is such a safer passer than Cade Cunningham because like Ja in his own right does crazy shit, but Cade's
the turnovers is a good point too. That's definitely part of it.
Okay,
we don't care though. Next up, last but not least, LaMelo Ball.
Oh, I'll go Ja Morant here.
I go Ja Morant so easy. I'm sorry.
I'll go Ja. Shout out to LaMelo. Damn. Shout out to LeVar. Did you see?
I did.
Yeah, that's actually really like no jokes. LeVar Ball. He had his foot amputated. That's not funny. And I'm glad to hear that he's all right and healthy because that would unironically
he's in good
be
spirits.
A huge loss for the basketball world. But yeah, I would still go Ja Morant over LaMelo.
It's so funny with LaMelo Ball now. He's reached a point of popularity that you feel like if you say anything negative, you pick somebody else, you're going to get a flock of 13-year-olds in your comments being like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're not taking LaMelo Ball? Die.
That would make me feel. That would unironically entrench me as more correct in my brain. If if I click the profile and it's like I don't know, like that picture of Donald Trump with like the blacked out face and the grill on and everything, and they're like,
Playboy Cardi Abby.
Yeah, you're not taking Melo. I'm like, I'm not. Thanks for I feel way better about this now. Oh my god!
His name is like Bladen or something. Some kind of name that sounds Mad Gen Alpha.
Oh yeah, Bladen, if you're watching this, fuck you.
Just fuck anybody named Bladen.
Yo, what the hell, guys? Come on.
Come on. And it's spelled something stupid like BLEYDEN or something.
Yeah, there we go. BLAIYDENE. Bladen. There we go.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, we don't necessarily think Ja Morant will be traded. We're just prepping for a world in which it would make sense. But we know we started this episode by saying post Luka, it feels like anybody's on the table. You can't really rule it out. You could see a world in which more and more teams move towards this like star for star trade, monkey see, monkey do. Who do you think are going to be the next stars to be traded? If you were to bet stars are going to be traded in the next calendar year, who do you think it would be?
Okay. I wrote some down. So the first one I wrote down is Trae Young. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I feel like Trae Young being traded in the next year is a certainty. After they trade DeAndre Hunter and bring in solid role players, but nobody that gives you a ceiling of really getting better than the mediocre roster you have now, unless Zachary Risacher becomes Chris Middleton next year, there's no world in which they're higher than the 7th seed. So I don't know. He knows this too, I'm sure. I'm sure he'll ask for a trade eventually.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad because it doesn't feel like either side wants to part, really. Like, it feels like the Hawks drafted him and they're like, you're our guy. We traded Luka for you. It's a win-win trade, baby. And they've ridden it out this whole time, and he's been a pretty model star the whole time. He's never been like, they need to do something or I'm going to do something myself. But yeah, it just feels like we've met the natural
instead of like an amicable breakup where both sides know it's needed, it'll be like neither side know it's needed, and all their friends and family have to force them to separate. Like they're just bad for each other.
They go to couples therapy, and the therapist is like, "Are you guys sure that like you should be together? Like maybe we should like do a separation or something. See if that makes you guys feel any better." Yeah.
They gotta call the authorities to legally separate them.
Yeah. Trae Young's like, fuck, life away from Clint Capella. It's pretty great. This is all right. Yeah. So Trae Young, yeah. All right. The second one, I wrote down Kevin Durant.
Also feels pretty safe to assume. They dangled him in trades. If you're someone like Kevin Durant's stature and your team dangles you in trades and says, if you want to go to the Warriors right now, we'll make it happen, and you have to say no, you're damn right I'm requesting a trade the next summer. What, you kidding me? I wanted to be here and you try to trade me against my will? I'm out.
Yeah. Truly playing with fire there. Because like it's one thing to do it for like a star that like has been quiet the whole time. Kevin Durant, he'll ask out if the weather's bad. Like he's
begging for a reason.
Yeah, and so he's like, okay, oh, you forced my hand. I gotta go to Miami. Oh no.
And you gave him a reason now when you're gonna be so fucked without him because you don't have your picks. Like this might be a GMing nightmare a year from now.
Yeah, it's like when your parents come home and they're like, why aren't these dishes clean? And you're like, there's no dishes right now. And then they're just looking for a reason to be like upset at you.
Sounds like it's coming from a place of drama.
Hey, I do the dishes now. That's all I'll say.
That's what I
learned. Okay, so this one, Kevin Durant is a layup. I also put down Devin Booker. That feels a little bit more wishy-washy. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, if I was running the team and I had to trade one, I would certainly trade both. If I'm Matt Ishbia, I don't believe in logic. I believe in vibes, apparently.
I believe
so
in big
they might
threes,
fuck around and keep him.
Know? Yeah. I believe in it. Yeah, it'll work.
They might have a new big three of D-Book, Beal, and Andrew Wiggins. That might entice them, so they might keep him.
Oh, my God. What a nightmare. Yeah.
They're like, listen, the fit's better. We can start Bradley Beal now and really rehabilitate his image.
Okay. Another name I wrote down here, Jaylen Brown. What do you think?
Jaylen Brown. Okay, I did not expect to hear that. Explain.
I don't know. I just think this team is going to get really expensive really fast, and
already is.
I mean, yeah, it's just going to get worse. And so I don't know if the Celtics don't win this year. They changed ownership, I'm pretty sure. So the people who brought it are probably pretty comfortable paying the luxury tax and everything. But it's just a name I was thinking about. Not that
That's
high
a good point that people
Brown.
are considering. Like I wouldn't be looking to trade Jaylen Brown for basketball reasons. But a lot of owners buy teams and they immediately want to make it profitable and they immediately want to shed salary and lower that tax bill. I could imagine a world in which that happens and everyone's real surprised, but maybe you're onto something a little bit early.
I don't know. Reports came in. I have sources. So keep an eye on that one. I also wrote down Porzingis here, which this one feels a little bit more feasible to me.
That I can see.
Yeah. Like, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I wouldn't be looking to blow up the Celtics at all. But if it doesn't work out and if the ownership group wants to be cheap a year and a half from now, Porzingis make all the sense in the world as a big man who probably won't age super gracefully with those knees. Like, I can imagine that.
I don't even consider it like blowing up the Celtics, really. I just feel like if they lose this year, the only reason I don't consider them a wholly worse team right now than they were last year is because of like aura of like the reigning NBA champions,
Yeah,
so
championship equity.
Yeah, any flaws they have, I'll write it off. But if they lose this year, then in retrospect, it'll clearly be like, oh yeah, they were just worse, and like something probably like if you want to be the level of team you were, something probably needs to change. And so yeah, that's what I was looking at there.
That's my favorite part of the season. I've been treated like such a Celtics hater, or like I'm just such like delusional because I've said that in power rankings I keep ranking the Cavs above them. Because I'm like, the only reason we're ranking the Celtics higher is championship aura, but like they haven't been better this year by any measurable way. And I don't necessarily think the Cavs will beat them in the playoffs, like one-on-one.
Yeah.
Like the matchups don't necessarily work out, but it is interesting how much we're willing to look past certain flaws because of championship aura and act like it's insane to acknowledge those flaws.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Damn. Fuck. I was just about to say something, but I don't know. It's gone now. Gone forever. So,
R.I.P.
All right. R.I.P. It was so funny. Everybody laugh right now, please.
Oh, you're so tough.
Oh, thanks, big bro. All right. The last name. The last name I have. This one, maybe if Bladen's still watching, I wrote down LaMelo Ball. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't want the army of 12-year-olds to yell at me, but if I was the Hornets, I'd be interested in the world post LaMelo if there's a good deal on the table. I'll say that.
Yeah, I don't know. I was talking to my friend who's a Hornets fan. They are real. There's some of them out there. I was talking to a Hornets fan, and a lot of the moves lately have felt more post LaMelo structured than you would think.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people run on autopilot when a team is this bad and has a player this good, where it's like, hey, they're going to keep him forever. But like, if you're 6 years away from being good and you're building everything around a guy who does struggle to stay healthy and everything, I've heard crazier things than like moving off of him.
A guy who struggles to stay healthy, leads the league in shots per 48 minutes, has not been hyper efficient since those first 15 games where he was insane. Hasn't really shown that he can be in a winning environment. Hasn't really shown that he can raise a floor of a team. Like, it's easy to say that, hey, we get the number 2 pick. Dylan Harper's right there. Maybe we can just
VJ Edgecombe's coming for that spot. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. No,
I would highly consider it.
The whole I love LaMelo, and I do think I don't know. Like, I think in a better, like, he's shown tendencies that, like, when there's people around him who could dribble the basketball, he doesn't need to lead the league in shots or do all of this shit. Like, I do think there's a lot of ways he could contribute to winning basketball with how good of a passer he is and how well he spaces the floor. It's just really hard to get a read on it in Charlotte, and I don't think that's going to like change anytime soon. I don't think they're going to like put a team around him that's like super capable of helping him.
I'm a pretty firm believer that almost any player that's like talented can work in a winning environment with the right coach and the right utilization, barring some people who just have like inescapably bad habits and don't want to be coachable or whatever, which I don't necessarily have a reason to think LaMelo is that.
LaMelo's guard DeMarcus Cousins. He's guard, so he's just going to be a nightmare when you get him.
I believe there's a world in which you can get goodness out of LaMelo with the right coach. You put him on the Celtics, I feel like Missoula could make it work.
Yeah. Okay, that's all the names. But
gun to your head, are you taking LaMelo Ball or Tumani Kamara?
Oh, I will take LaMelo Ball, but like, what the fuck? Yeah, you could have shout out to Monty, man. I'm not like blind. Like if I don't know who else is on my team, what do I need? I hate you. You gotta go, dude. I can't believe you just asked me that.
He said, nerddom is a disease.
Yeah, you gotta take a walk, man, and like you'll watch this back later. Whoa, what are you thinking? He's just Valentine.
Go ahead, put a wall.
Valentine, that is not the shot.
I only said that because Kamara was on the screen.
Oh, that's so funny. Shout out Kamara, man. Shout out to underrated, but not that underrated. That's all the names I have for the potential trades.
And there we go. And that's our episode. Long story short, the Grizzlies are extremely good. Ja Morant isn't quite fitting. It's fair to wonder if there's a world in which they might want to trade him, but we don't really see it happening. But we wanted to yap about the Grizzlies either way, so we gave you a video clickbaiting you around the idea.
Yep. And if you're still here, honestly, if you are someone who got clickbaited and you're still here, I respect you so much. Like you
got to subscribe. Honestly, at this point, you're this far in. You're real.
Hit the fucking bell while you're at it. Like if you're just gonna do whatever we tell you to,
so fucking subscribe.
Hey, if the people are still here, what should they comment? Maybe Jack likes big men. That could be cool.
Comment. Okay.
Jack likes big men. There we go. All right. Yeah.
It's funny when I say it. No, you just volunteered it.
It's serious. It's serious, guys. Come on.
It's a confession. Comment Jack loves big man, and we'll see y'all next week.